I think I lost my dad's medal.
Something is happening in Hope Valley, and nobody saw it coming. Episode 9 of When Calls the Heart, Season 13, is being called the most shocking installment of the entire season, and fans are losing their minds trying to figure out what exactly goes down.
I think LJ wants his dad to feel real.
I wish I could tell him stories about his dad.
Maybe that's an idea.
The whispers started quietly. A behind-the-scenes photo here, a cryptic Instagram caption there. But now the speculation has reached a full boil, and Hardies everywhere are convinced that what happens in episode 9 is going to change the show forever. A wedding.
I told you lately how impeccable I think you are.
Right there in the middle of the season, not at the finale, not as a season-ending reward after years of build-up, right now, in episode 9. And the wildest part is that nobody saw it coming, which means the writers pulled off something that this show has never quite done before. They caught everyone off guard. Even the most devoted fans who have been watching every single clue, tracking every costume fitting, and reading between the lines of every podcast comment were not fully prepared for what episode 9 is bringing. So if you have been following along with season 13 and wondering where all of this is headed, buckle up. Because what is about to unfold in Hope Valley is the kind of moment that reminds you exactly why you fell in love with this show in the first place. To understand why episode 9 feels so massive, you have to go back to where season 13 actually started. The finale of season 12 left fans in a state that was equal parts heartbreak and hope. Little Jack's health had become a crisis. Elizabeth found herself in the middle of the night making one of the hardest decisions a mother can make. Choosing to take her son to Cape Fullerton to get him the care he desperately needed. It was not a simple trip. It was not a casual decision. It was the kind of moment that strips everything else away and forces a person to face what truly matters. And in that moment, Nathan showed exactly who he is. He did not hesitate. He did not wait to see how things played out. He packed up, got Allie ready, and followed Elizabeth into the unknown with 5 words that stopped fans dead in their tracks. Where you go, I go. That line became the heartbeat of everything season 13 has been building toward. It was not just a romantic declaration. It was a promise. It was a man telling a woman that her burdens are his burdens, that her fears are his fears, and that no matter how dark or uncertain the road gets, she will not be walking it alone. Fans have been holding on to that moment ever since, and the writers have known exactly what they were doing by letting it sit and breathe through the early episodes of season 13. Because when you plant a seed that powerful at the end of one season, you have to let it grow slowly and carefully before it blooms. And that is precisely what has been happening. Every episode of season 13, leading up to episode 9, has been quietly, deliberately, and beautifully laying the groundwork for what is now about to happen. The move to Cape Fullerton opened up new territory for the story in ways that even the most optimistic fans could not have fully anticipated. Joy Gregory, the writer and executive producer, who has been one of the most vocal voices about season 13, talked about this new setting on the Heart to Heart podcast, and explained that Cape Fullerton was never just a backdrop, it was a choice. A deliberate narrative decision to take these characters out of the comfort zone of Hope Valley and place them in an environment where everything feels a little less familiar, a little less safe, and a little more real. And what happens when people are stripped of their comfort zones and placed into uncertain territory together? They either fall apart or they grow closer. For Elizabeth and Nathan, season 13 has made it unmistakably clear which direction things are heading. Their relationship has been tested in ways that go far beyond the usual romantic tension that fans are used to seeing on this show. Co-parenting a child with a chronic illness is not a storyline that allows for easy shortcuts or fairy tale simplicity. It demands patience. It demands communication. It demands a kind of love that is not just about stolen glances and sweet moments, but about showing up consistently when things are hard and exhausting and scary. Gregory mentioned that this experience was specifically designed to change Elizabeth, to push her into a version of herself that audiences have not seen before. And through the first 8 episodes of season 13, that transformation has been quietly unfolding in the background of every scene. But here's the thing about quiet transformations. They do not stay quiet forever. At some point, all of that internal change has to find its expression in the external world. At some point, the growth has to become visible. And episode 9 is where everything that has been simmering finally comes to the surface in the most unexpected and emotionally charged way possible. The wedding that fans have been speculating about since the moment Barbara Gregasova dropped that costume-fitting video on Instagram is not a rumor anymore. It is not wishful thinking from a fan base that has been waiting too long for a payoff. Something is happening in episode 9 that is going to send shockwaves through the Hope Valley community and through every living room where a devoted Hardie is sitting with their heart in their throat, wondering how the writers managed to keep this secret for so long. The costume-fitting video was the first real crack in the wall. Gregasova wrote those words, "Where is Elizabeth?" and mentioned that they missed their usual first fitting post. That alone would not have been enough to send fans into full speculation mode. But then people started looking more closely at what was actually in that video. They started examining the fabrics, the silhouettes, the details that a costume designer includes not by accident, but by intention. And the comments section became a place where hundreds of fans were openly asking the same question. Is one of those dresses a wedding dress? The fact that nobody from the production team came out and immediately shut down that speculation is itself a form of communication. These are people who know how to manage information. They know what to confirm and what to deny and what to simply let breathe. And they let that speculation breathe, which means something. What makes the wedding in episode 9 so shocking is not just the timing. It is who is involved and how it happens. Season 13 has been doing something very clever with its storytelling. It has been giving fans just enough of Elizabeth and Nathan's romantic progression to feel satisfied, while simultaneously holding back the biggest moments for maximum impact. That is a difficult balance to strike, and the writers have been walking that tightrope with remarkable precision through every episode leading up to this one. Fans who have been watching closely have noticed the subtle shifts in how Elizabeth and Nathan interact this season. There is a new kind of ease between them that was not fully there before. The tension that defined so much of their earlier dynamic, that beautiful and sometimes agonizing push and pull that kept audiences guessing for seasons, has given way to something that feels more settled and more sure. They move through scenes together differently now. The way Nathan looks at Elizabeth carries the weight of a man who has already made his decision and is simply waiting for the right moment to make it official. And the way Elizabeth responds to him has changed too. She is not holding back in the same way she once did. The walls that she built so carefully after losing Jack in the earlier seasons have been coming down brick by brick, and by the time episode 9 arrives, what remains is a woman who is fully open, fully present, and fully ready for what comes next. But here is where the shock factor comes in, because while everyone has been watching Elizabeth and Nathan and waiting for their moment, episode 9 delivers a wedding that catches the entire Hope Valley community completely off guard. The circumstances around it are not what anyone expected. This is not the carefully planned, community-wide celebration that fans might have imagined when they first started dreaming about an Elizabeth and Nathan wedding. This is something rawer, something more urgent, something that happens because the moment demands it, rather than because everything is perfectly in place. And that is actually what makes it so emotionally powerful. The best moments on When Calls the Heart have never been the ones where everything goes according to plan. They have been the ones where characters are pushed to their limits and choose love anyway, where the circumstances are messy and imperfect, and the decision to move forward together is made not in spite of the chaos, but right in the middle of it. That is exactly the energy that episode 9 is carrying. The health storyline with little Jack has been the emotional backbone of season 13 from the very beginning. A child dealing with a chronic illness is not a simple plot device. It is a lived reality for millions of families, and the show has been handling it with the kind of sensitivity and honesty that Gregory promised when she first talked about it on the podcast. She said they did not want to sit too long in the heavy and painful side of it, but they also wanted to give it the respect it deserves. Episode 9 is where those two commitments collide. Because little Jack's condition takes a turn in this episode that forces everyone around him to confront the fragility of life and the importance of not waiting for the perfect moment to hold on to the people you love. That collision between grief and joy, between fear and celebration, is the emotional heart of episode 9. And it is what makes the wedding feel not just romantic, but deeply necessary. When you are sitting in the middle of uncertainty, when you are watching someone you love struggle and fighting every instinct to fall apart, sometimes the only thing that makes sense is to reach for the person standing next to you and say, "I am not waiting anymore. I choose this. I choose you," right now, in the middle of all of this. That is the spirit of what happens in episode 9, and it is the reason that fans who have already seen glimpses of it through behind-the-scenes content and careful reading of production clues are describing it as one of the most emotionally overwhelming episodes the show has ever produced. The performances alone are being talked about as career-defining moments for the actors involved. And that is saying something because this cast has never been short on talent or emotional range. Allie's role in episode 9 deserves its own conversation, because what happens with her character in this episode is just as significant as anything happening with the adults around her. Joy Gregory made it very clear early in the season 13 promotional cycle that Allie was going to be stepping into a bigger and more complex role this season. She praised Jada Lily Miller extensively, talking about how the young actress has grown into such a capable performer that the writers feel completely confident giving her storylines that push her further than she has ever been pushed before. Episode 9 is where that confidence pays off in the most visible way. Allie is not a background character in this episode. She is not simply reacting to the events happening around her. She is actively shaping them. And the way she navigates the emotional weight of everything going on in her family is the kind of storytelling that turns a young character into a fully realized person that audiences genuinely root for and genuinely worry about. The connection between Allie and Oliver has been one of the quieter but more consistently compelling threads running through season 13. Gregory mentioned how beautifully their on-screen bond was coming across and how excited the writers were to explore it further. Episode 9 gives that friendship a moment that elevates it into something that feels like the beginning of a much larger story. Without giving away every detail, what happens between Allie and Oliver in this episode carries the kind of emotional honesty that the show does best when it is focused on younger characters navigating feelings that are too big for simple words. There is a scene that fans are going to be talking about for a very long time, not because it is dramatic in the explosive sense, but because it is quiet and true and captures something about growing up and facing hard things and finding unexpected support in the people you did not expect to need. Jada Lily Miller handles it with a maturity that is genuinely remarkable for someone her age, and it is a reminder that, When Calls the Heart has always been at its best when it trusts its younger cast members with real emotional material, rather than keeping them on the sidelines of the adult storylines. The transition into young adulthood that Gregory talked about is not an abstract concept in episode 9. It is visible in every scene Allie is in. You can see her moving through the world with a new kind of awareness, understanding things about love and loss and family in a way that the Allie of earlier seasons simply could not have accessed. And that growth feels earned. It does not feel rushed or forced. It feels like the natural result of everything this character has been through over the course of the series, and it positions her beautifully for whatever the back half of season 13 has in store. The community of Hope Valley itself is also a major presence in episode 9, in a way that reminds you why the show has always been about more than just the central couple. When Calls the Heart built its entire identity on the idea that a community is not just a backdrop, it is a character in its own right. The people of Hope Valley do not simply exist to witness the main storylines. They participate in them, they shape them, they show up for each other in ways that feel genuinely moving, because they are rooted in a vision of community that many viewers find both idealistic and deeply comforting. Episode 9 leans into that vision hard. The response of the Hope Valley community to everything that unfolds in this episode is one of the most emotionally generous things the show has done in recent memory. And it serves as a reminder that even when individual characters are going through their darkest moments, they are never truly alone. That theme of not being alone runs through every layer of episode 9. It connects little Jack's health journey to Elizabeth's personal transformation to Nathan's unwavering commitment to Allie's coming-of-age story. They are all variations on the same fundamental truth that this show has been telling since the very beginning. You do not have to face hard things by yourself. And sometimes the people who show up for you in the middle of the hardest moments are the ones who end up meaning the most. Looking at everything season 13 has been doing, and where episode 9 sits within the larger arc of the season, it is impossible not to feel the weight of what this show has accomplished. When Calls the Heart has been on the air long enough that it could have easily settled into a comfortable repetition of familiar beats. It could have kept delivering the same kind of warmth and community storytelling that its audience loves without taking any real risks. But season 13 has not done that. Season 13 has been pushing. It has been taking its characters into genuinely new territory, both literally in the move to Cape Fullerton and emotionally in the kind of challenges it has placed in front of them. And episode 9 is the culmination of all that pushing and all that risk-taking. The fact that a wedding is happening in episode 9 and not in the finale is itself a statement. It says that the writers are not interested in holding the biggest emotional moments hostage until the very end. It says that they trust their story enough to deliver major payoffs in the middle of the season and then keep building from there. That is a confident creative choice, and it is one that suggests the back half of season 13 has even more in store. Because if the wedding is in episode 9, what are episodes 10 through 13 building toward? That question alone is enough to keep fans completely locked in for the rest of the season. Jada Lily Miller's Instagram post after the season 12 finale captured something essential about why this show means so much to its audience. She reminded everyone of the central theme of family sticking together, and she thanked fans for enjoying the season as much as she enjoyed making it. That kind of genuine warmth between the cast and the audience is not something you can manufacture. It grows out of years of shared investment in these characters and these stories. And episode 9 of season 13 feels like a direct expression of that shared investment. It is an episode that exists because fans have been showing up, season after season, caring deeply about what happens to Elizabeth and Nathan and Allie and Little Jack and everyone else in Hope Valley. The writers know that. And episode 9 feels like their way of saying, we see you, and we have not forgotten what you have been waiting for. The conversation around season 13 is only going to get louder from here. Every new behind-the-scenes post, every podcast comment, every glimpse of a costume or a set or an actor's expression in a candid photo is going to be analyzed and discussed and turned into new theories. That is the nature of a fandom that is this deeply engaged. And When Calls the Heart has always thrived on that engagement. It is a show that invites its audience into the creative process in a way that feels genuinely collaborative. When Gregory drops a comment on a podcast about new territory and Elizabeth's transformation, she knows exactly what she is doing. She is feeding the conversation. She is keeping Hardies hooked. And with episode 9 delivering the kind of moment that people are already calling one of the most powerful in the show's history, that conversation is going to be impossible to walk away from. Hope Valley has always been about love, faith, resilience, and community. Season 13 is delivering all 4 of those things at once in episode 9, wrapped up in a moment that no one saw coming, but that everyone, deep down, has been hoping for. And that is exactly what this show does best. And that is that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Do not forget to like this video, share it with your family and with your friends, and subscribe to our channel to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can drop your thoughts about this video in the comments section down below.